Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out Ricky Gervais, the most hated man in Hollywood.
I've just typed in 58,008. Turn it upside down. Boobs.
Ricky might be the most unlikely superstar on Earth. He's a slightly overweight, average-looking Brit from a working-class background who somehow rose to become one of the most influential voices of our time.
He's talented. He's funny.
Rising to the top of Hollywood before they eventually lost control of him.
If you win, right, come up, accept your little award, take your
I loved when he did that.
And fuck off.
Today, we will explore the story of Ricky Gervais.
And one day you'll meet someone and life will be brilliant.
Is that Philomena Cook?
So, nothing to feel sad about. Not yet. Mm-hmm.
I think my mum liked me doing science, and in fact, when I changed, I went home for Christmas, and bless her, she'd bought me a big biology book, and I went, "Oh, thanks." I said, "I've swapped to philosophy," and she went, "What's that?" And I said, "It doesn't matter." I said, "I'm going to be a pop star anyway," and she went, "Pop star is another word for junkie."
His parents, by all accounts, were good people. They clearly loved him and treated him well. But it doesn't seem as though they really believed in his ambitions.
I got into University College London, my first choice. I got all the grades I needed, and I went to do biology. And I suddenly thought, this isn't why I came to university. I came to university to join a band.
Hang on. Okay, he was in a band? Is that him? Wow. I'm glad it didn't work out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have him. I love Ricky Gervais, just putting that out there. I don't know if he's the most hated man in Hollywood, though. I live down the street from Hollywood, and no one's... I guess I haven't heard much from him lately. Maybe he's been blackballed since the Golden Globes thing. I thought when he hosted the Golden Globes, it was refreshing. I loved it. It was hilarious. I thought he was joking when he was basically roasting all the celebrities. I thought everyone felt like it was a joke, right? I mean, he's kind of half joking. He's half, super truthful, too. I think he gave voice to what a lot of people who watch the Golden Globes and those award shows are thinking. Just say thank you and move on to the next one. Anyway, let's learn more about him, y'all.
Believe it or not, that was Ricky Gervais and his 80s pop group, Siona Dancing. What?
What?
That's you?
Whoa.
Dancing? My pop group I was in, that failed miserably. Thanks very much for bringing that up.
Somewhere in his early 20s, Ricky and his friend...
Look at Ricky! Wow. I could see him on TV. I could see him being a pop star. I could see him being a musician, a singer. He has the look. I'm surprised.
Somewhere in his early 20s, Ricky and his friend created a band called Shauna Dancing. Basically, it was an opportunity for Ricky to LARP as if he was David Bowie. Very quickly, they landed a record deal. I think it's important just to take a minute here and bear in mind Ricky's upbringing.
A working class teenager in a council house in a rough estate in Reading. Honestly, I grew up where it was last man standing. I used to have my mum cut my hair over a week.
Oh, cute kid.
Because I couldn't go to school, so I went, haircut, fuck it, I'm not giving him that.
So they had two songs. One was called More to Lose and one called Bitter Heart. The first one charting at one...
Hang on, he got a record deal and they only had 2 songs? Maybe he just means 2 singles. I think he means 2 singles.
2 songs. One was called More to Lose and one called Bitter Heart. The first one charting at 117. The second, a phenomenal success, charting at number 79. The record label saw
That's
this
not bad.
as a bit of a flop.
He looks like David.
I started a band and we got signed and it was over as quick as it started. My rock career was 1 year long.
That's not bad, Ricky. He looks and sounds like David Bowie.
It did lead him to go on to manage a band called Suede.
Oh, I did.
He was a manager?
This band a little bit in the early years. When I told them I couldn't manage them anymore, there was no tears. They didn't beg, and that's when their career really took off.
Ricky's life really wasn't looking very spectacular. He spent a period of his time on government assistance on benefits, and eventually in his late 20s he realized he needed to get a normal job in which he worked every single day, sat in a boring office.
Now it's all making sense, y'all. Now it's all making sense. This character in The Office, he wanted so bad to be a performer, but he was stuck in an office. And it came from his real life. It's making sense. I see where this is going.
before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to your boys at Squarespace for sponsoring it. Squarespace is the #1 platform for building and developing your own beautiful looking website. Design.
Y'all be sure to go to Squarespace and buy stuff.
I had a feeling this news station, I think that the slogan was London's only alternative or something like that. The only problem was I didn't know what I was doing.
That's sometimes good.
On XFM 104.9. It's 4:10 after the break, Oasis.
He got this job behind the scenes at this radio station, and he immediately rightly realised he didn't know what he was doing. And so I sent a tape, and it must have landed on the top of Ricky's pile of different stuff on his desk.
His was a CV at first. Top of the
Hang
pile.
on. Did I miss some of it? He had a job at a radio station? Oh, he had a radio show. The Ricky Gervais show? What? Oh, I feel like I've heard clips of it with Stephen Merchant and the other guy, Carl Pilkington. September 2001 and May 2002. Before The Office or after The Office? Wikipedia says it was between series of The Offices.
Definitely, yeah. And I went, yeah, I do.
Because he certainly wouldn't have looked, beyond, the 5th or 6th letter from the top.
And I remember my first thought was, fuck me.
He's tall.
The
Oh, wow,
first
he
run
is
of
tall.
The Ricky Gervais show was really the first of its kind for anything like this for Ricky. He wasn't a comedian. He was just a man in his late 30s. But yet, this show was
Late
gold.
30s.
Are you sure they're called REM? Or have they changed that? They call it Superwoman, you tosser!
I'm surprised you can say tosser on the radio. Tosser.
The biggest single influence on my creative process. Yeah? Who cares?
I think you said your brother was the funniest person you'd ever
Growing
heard.
up, the first person you answered back to was your parents, and he answered back. He got sent to bed.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, no, he was right.
Yeah.
And I thought, they lost the argument. There was a big news story last year, right? It was about a terrible train crash. Now, the train crash had happened about a year before.
Comedy was never Ricky's first creative love. However, comedy had always played a vital role in his life.
If someone goes to the loo and they come back and they've got a patch of wee on their trousers, right? And everyone knows, and then someone says you've got a patch of wee, and they go red, I go, fuck, get me out of here. Because if I come out, I go, fucking piss myself
of
again.
wee.
It's done. Yeah.
Right, yeah. You've got a patch of wee. Never heard anyone say. He's right, though. If there's anything that you're going to be self-conscious about, as soon as you get into the group, you got to call attention to it yourself. You got to be, oh my God, look, I pissed myself. And that takes the foundation from any fun making about you. He's right. I do that.
It was survival. You laugh at everything. It gets you over it, and a sense of humour.
Yeah,
It
and a
makes
sense
you
of-
bulletproof.
Yeah,
You don't have to pave the jungle.
Yeah.
You can just grow a pair and have a laugh about it.
But Ricky's comedy is far more than just rude jokes and being like a shock jock. His comedy always was very pinned on human observation.
I became an atheist, but not through studying theology, through body language. When I was
What else is it
about
based
8
on?
years old, I loved Jesus. I thought it was brilliant. And my brother, who was
Jesus is
11 years
brilliant.
older than me, and he came in and he looked and he said, "Why do you believe in God then?" And my mum went, "Bob." And I knew, she doesn't want him to say something. And I thought, why is that? Yes, of course. It's just like Santa.
And so at XFM, things were looking very good for Ricky. And then, seemingly like all opportunities in Ricky's life, XFM got taken over by Capital Radio, and they immediately cancelled the Ricky Gervais show.
Okay.
We would, just joke and riff about observations of office life. I realised Ricky was going to get me fired, so I jumped ship, joined the BBC. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to make a little training video, and I called Ricky and I said, let's do the office stuff we did. And we made this little tape, and it just came alive. Ricky's performance was electric.
Sammy, David, you old slag.
CD Boss was a pre-pilot.
He's so good. He's so funny. That little... He's so funny. He's a good actor, y'all. One of the things that makes him so great is that he doesn't try too hard. I feel like acting is simple, but it's difficult. But if you go to acting class and you get training, you're learning how to do it, but it also puts a lot of weight on it. And, it puts you in your head a little bit. But if you can just get in there and be in the moment and be let yourself believe the imaginary circumstances, you get actors like Ricky Gervais.
You old slag.
CD Boss was a pre-pilot that was made in 1998. In this,
98?
Ricky played a character called David Brent, who had this interesting personality, who saw themselves as this charismatic person everyone loved, but whose clear desperation for approval was very evident to everyone but him.
The observations felt fresh and kind of authentic, and it just began to snowball from there. The BBC did a test screening of the first episode of The Office. Hey, what's up? I love that. We shot it documentary style because it seemed like just the quickest way to shoot. You know, we didn't have to do lots of clever lighting. We could kind of move fast. Right.
I was emulating those sort of quaint docu-soaps that, of the 90s that I'd watched, you know, and ordinary people get their 15 minutes of fame, and that was it exactly.
Do come on. Do you want to take a seat and come back in half an hour? Yeah. Sorry. What?
I believe you've got seats already reserved.
The format did exist before The Office, films like Spinal Tap. However, The Office would
Right.
turn this format into one of the backbones of comedies.
Oh my god. Oh my god, it totally overtook sitcoms. Right? I mean, every comedy on network TV became this style.
Literally the greatest idea I have ever heard in my life. That idea is terrible.
You're gay.
No. I'm not gay.
Hello, mate. It's your buddy G, manager of Corrupt FM. Corrupt FM.
Corrupt FM, you know who you are. Stop being showing off in the camera.
Members of the public rank every show from 0 to 100 on what they think of it. And you get these figures for every single programme. The first few weeks of The Office were just terrible.
And it scored the lowest audience score ever. The only thing that was lower was women's lawn bowls.
Chance
People didn't get it, I guess.
On those bowls would be a good result too.
Lawn bowls.
Ricky and Steve announced, slightly unexpectedly, that they wanted to direct. People didn't usually say that.
But what Ricky had was, because he was older, because he wasn't trying to be a performer and be a star, he was sort of invincible. Because if the BBC said, well, we're not going to let you write it and direct it and be in it, he'd be like, all right, see ya.
And so because he wasn't desperate for fame, he only really ever wanted to do the things that he wanted to do.
I knew I wanted to own my own labour and create the work. I wanted to be the writer-director. That was my biggest lesson.
That's interesting. I feel like doing the radio show first probably helped him a lot. Also, doing like the demo episode, that, what was it called? Something Boss? CD Boss? I bet doing that showed that he could handle it, you know?
You got a tissue? Sorry. No. You got a tissue? What's that?
That's not mine. It's the first one I picked up.
Your mum's?
Yeah, mine is twice as big as that.
Whilst The Office was being made, the pilot had started to get around to different TV networks. And it led to Channel 4 working with Ricky Gervais on a number of projects. The 11 o'clock show, Meet Ricky Gervais. It was clear, Ricky was very funny. He was very entertaining. But it wouldn't quite be that would make him the Ricky Gervais everyone knows and loves today. It would be something else.
I will try twice hard. I really will. I know I've been complacent, and I'll turn this place around if we just say that it's not definite now. And then we can...
This one scene showed a potential in Ricky Gervais that was very unique. Like, sure, he had the ability to make you laugh, but he also had the ability to make you feel.
Every time I've cried, Invention of Lying, David Brent, Derek, Afterlife, every time I've cried, it's the first take. Because then you feel better.
Yeah. And I think comedy can be about
Because then you feel better.
Comedy.
That's interesting that he says, okay, so whenever he's cried on camera, it's been the first take, because after that you feel better. That is an area where acting training would benefit, to be able to repeat a scene several times.
Is often laughing at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is. Well, the
Oh, wait,
funniest
say
thing
that
is
again?
often feel better.
Yeah.
And I think comedy can be about empathy. Comedy is often laughing at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is. Well, the funniest person you know isn't a professional comedian.
Yeah.
It's your dad or your granddad or your uncle, because someone has to walk in the pub and you see your uncle do a second and you're laughing because you know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
And it's about empathy because you go, I know why you're laughing. You're laughing at his wig or something.
There was something about seeing this character that beforehand you sort of despised and laughed at, crying to get their job back, it was really heartbreaking.
So we're starting from now.
I think a lot of comedians, like people who had done comedy for a long time, they would almost be fearful of trying to do a scene like this. Yeah, it might come off as cringy or maybe trying to step too far out of their wheelhouse. But Ricky didn't have any pre-existing pressure on him.
And the Golden Globe goes to The Office.
Wow. Yes.
At the age of 40, Ricky Gervais was
That's
an
a
overnight
limousine.
success.
I meant more in the traditional way, like maybe in the early days, what if that happened?
Well, I didn't do the early days. Right. My first gig was Animals, and the first gig I did of Animals, the warm-up, I was on the front cover of the Radio Times as the most influential person in comedy, which is obviously ludicrous.
Wow.
First book of Moses, commonly called Genesis. Start at the beginning. Fairly big book, but...
When I'd won the BAFTAs and I was at the front cover of Radio Times, there's a part of me that think I should do stand-up.
Yeah.
I sort of got to prove my point here a little bit.
Wow. Do you remember the Strange Ways riots about 10 years ago? And the prisoners were up on the roof for about 3 days, and the guards and police couldn't do anything. They were ripping the place to pieces. They were putting the tiles off, and they were just throwing it down for about 3 days. She went, "Look at them. They should be locked up."
The what riot? I haven't heard of this. I know this is totally off subject, but I'm curious. In Manchester, April 1st, 1990, prisoners took control of the prison chapel and quickly spread throughout most of the prison. The incident ended on April 25th. 25 days. One prisoner was killed. 147 prison officers and 47 prisoners were injured. Most of the prison was damaged or destroyed. £55 million to repair it? Oh my God. Wow.
They should be locked up.
What about something like the Newsnight review? Because that's quite
brilliant.
What do they make of it?
Oh wait. I'm sorry, who?
What about something like the Newsnight review? Because that's quite intellectual.
The Newsnight Review. The Newsnight Review, Ricky Gervais. Oh, okay, it was called Animals at the Bloomsbury Theatre in London. Ikao Ishun. He has won everything this year in terms of comedy. His position reminds of something that Jerry Seinfeld went through. He goes back to stand-up as there is a sense that unless you do that, you are not a true comic. Ricky Gervais never was a stand-up in the first place. I don't think he entirely succeeds. The best moments are the moments when he digresses somewhat from Animals, what David Attenborough left out, and you get a sense there of who he is. Ikao Ishun, your grammar, your sentence structure is clunky. Al-Karim Giovanni. It's a strange show. It's kind of much on one level. What? His career has had the opposite trajectory. Most people approve... Oh, Al-Karim Giovanni used a semicolon. Most approve themselves in the club. It has happened with everyone from Ben Elton to Peter Kay. The audience come to see him and bring a lot of baggage and come to see David Brent. A lot of the show doesn't work, but the reason they laugh is that they think he is sounding like David Brent. That's a shitty review. Ian Hislop. He obviously has cobbled the show together and it looks like it. I'm sure that Eddie Izzard doesn't cobble his shows together. Watching Ricky Gervais, you thought, oh yeah, you can more or less do this. I cannot see why he's on stage. The worrying thing is that a lot of the material is so banal. He deconstructs Genesis and tells us that it is not literally true, which is about 400-year-old as a starter. He produces a book of homosexual animals. There was a whole series about that on Channel 4, and stand-ups used that to make jokes for the next 3 years. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a bit flat. Ian, you're a writer too. Ricky, don't pay attention to these shitty writers. They wish they were you.
What about something like the Newsnight review? Because that's quite intellectual. What do they make of it? Huh? The Newsnight review, what did they make of it? Ian Hislop, didn't he review it? Didn't he give it a review on TV?
Ian Hislop.
Did he like it? What did he make of it? He didn't like it?
A lot of the material is
that's him.
So banal. After having produced a program as funny as The Office, I cannot see why he's on stage.
You do it for yourself.
What has Ian Hislop done? Oh, Hislop had a show on Channel 4 called Loose Talk in 1983. It was short-lived. I think he's jealous, y'all. He's jealous. He doesn't get it.
You do it for yourself. That way, at least you come up with something interesting and different. I mean, if you start second-guessing people, you'll end up pleasing no one.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Way to go,
It's
Ricky.
quest to be popular. It's never a good thing in art. It's never a good thing. If it
Yeah.
happens, great, right? But if you aim at it, you'll come unstuck.
And from here, Ricky's career just kept growing. His original XFM radio show came back as The Ricky Gervais Show, which
That's
became
what
the
I've
most popular
heard clips
podcast of all time in 2005. The show led to him meeting Carl Pilkington. Him, Ricky, and Steve Merchant created a series called An Idiot Abroad. He wrote a successful kids book called Flanimals. The Office obviously sold to an American company and created The American Office, which became the most popular sitcom in television history.
And so the Emmy goes to The Office.
And so by the 2010s, Ricky was now filthy rich, had created some absolutely iconic pieces of television, an incredibly successful stand-up career, and throughout Ricky's projects, we could really see his range of not only being hysterically funny, but also very insightful and incredibly deep. But you see, with all this success, and as Ricky grew in Hollywood, Ricky would start to take another role in society.
Twitter is like being able to read every toilet wall in the world. We're getting sick of multi-millionaires telling them to recycle when everyone knew they were flying around in private jets and limos. And
as social attitudes in the last 10 or so years have kind of taken on this sort of revisionist attitude of the past.
One of the great things about The Office, by the way, a whole new generation of fans are getting into it now. We were just talking about your kids a moment ago. At what point do you introduce them to the series? Still a little young, right?
I kind of think maybe never. That show is so inappropriate. I mean,
and so there'd be this kind of cultural rift, a split between these very progressive woke people who, you know, like Hollywood, would look at The Office as just rude, offensive, terrible, and then everyone else who would look at The Office as fun, very heartwarming, and a show that could deal in taboos in a very sensitive way. And so this split in opinion led us to the Golden Globes.
Oh, okay. Now I see. Okay. So it's a woke thing. That's why he's hated. Okay. Now it's making sense. Yeah. We gotta learn to laugh at ourselves. Right? I mean, that's his whole thing. That's how he started out doing this. Making jokes about himself.
Hello and welcome to the 77th Annual Golden Globe Awards.
Where would we be without Ricky Gervais? Did you see his opening monologue?
Put on the internet about him saying, don't virtue signal, just come out here and get your little prize, go fuck off, because nobody cares about your opinion. I was like, thank you.
Thank God for Ricky Gervais going off Sunday night to let people know that you still got a voice.
Up until this point, he'd done Golden Globes, he's hosted it a few times, always teasing and mocking celebrities, but this one felt unlike the rest.
Yeah.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China.
This speech resonated with so many people, and it gained Ricky a new level of prestige.
You know what's interesting is that he held a mirror up to the people who were accusing other people of being insensitive, trying to cancel. You know, like that joke. Great. He's brilliant.
Resonated with so many people, and it gained Ricky a new level of prestige. He was the man who could insult the king to his face.
It's always lovely to get nominated and awarded, but if you take it too seriously, you're on a slippery slope. If you really think that you're anything special when you win an award, you just won an award, that's all.
And it's because he's always been so adamant in his own way of doing things. Him being adamant on writing and directing led him to creating his own production companies. So now he's not beholden to anyone to get a TV show made, he can do it himself.
I love awkward.
Excruciatingly awkward.
Absolutely. But not in real life when it's not me. If I'm at a social occasion and everyone's laughing and someone makes a crap joke and no one laughs, I want to go. I want to go back in time and save them. I want to try and just look at me. Don't look at them. I can't stand someone else being embarrassed.
It's cringy.
You should never punch down. You should punch up. Well, who's to say what's up and down is?
Yeah.
People get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not necessarily the same. We're all idiots, and what my job is to let people know it doesn't matter. We're all fucking idiots, and that's great. There's
I like
nothing
that.
more joyous than not being able to stop laughing.
I really don't think Ricky makes these types of jokes to hurt people. He makes them to explore topics and to make you think, to make you feel, and most...
What was that? What is that from? Where, this part?
Hurt people. He makes them to explore topics and to make you think, to make you feel, and most importantly, to make you laugh.
People say, how does he get away with it? Well, because I fucking think about it. I haven't gone out there drunk and said something horrendous. I've thought about that joke more than your article about it.
Yeah. Appreciation for the audience and worrying about what they think of your stuff. Two different things.
Right.
To lead the orchestra, you've got to turn your back on the audience.
I, from somewhere, had this strange, unjustified belief that it would be all right. I always thought it'd be all right. I always knew I'd do what I wanted to do, and I always have.
If you enjoyed this video,
Oh
be
my
sure to
God.
join us on the Afters podcast where we'll talk about this and much more. Peace.
Y'all be sure to go to Jimmy the Giant, like and subscribe. This was great. This went by fast. That was 18 minutes. Feels like 5 minutes. That was so fast. Wow. Now that I know more about his past and how he came up, I feel like I love him even more. He's even funnier now. I love this. I love that he held a mirror up to people who are claiming to be virtuous when really we all have our mistakes. What is he doing now? Let's just look up his IMDb. Flanimals. 50 species of creatures are so ugly and misshapen they become cute and endearing. One of these creatures, a pudgy, perspiring purple creature, goes on a mission to change the world. I'll watch it. Ricky Gervais Armageddon. The Office Superfan episodes. Ricky Gervais Supernature. I think I've seen that. Afterlife. Yeah, y'all, he's doing his thing. Great. Ricky, if you're watching, you're great. Keep it up. You're an international treasure. But don't let that get to your head, you f***wad. I love how he played the system, and he came up kind of around the system. Yeah, y'all be sure to go to Jimmy the Giant, like and subscribe. And if you made it this far in the video, give me a like and subscribe too. Yeah. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank buymeacoffee.com. And thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.